me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Ultimately, when you're looking at media, making sure you're controlling your narrative, who you are, what you are, and being really strong in that voice is very important, because we all have naysayers, and that's okay. It's good to hear those different perspectives. Make sure that you have your feet on the ground and really those positioning in place to make sure you're the most successful for the community is very important.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, live from NRPA 2025 in Orlando. Today, we sit down with Megan Keul, an emerging voice in Parks and Recreation, a 30 Under 30 awardee, and newly named NRPA Fellow. Megan shares her journey from starting in local government to becoming a leading voice for young professionals nationwide. In this conversation, you'll hear how the Young Professionals Network is shaping future leaders, why mentorship and connection are vital in our industry, and how Megan is helping redefine the way Parks and Rec tells its story through media and community engagement. From boots on the ground outreach to the big picture of where our field is headed in the next decade, Megan brings energy, insight, and vision to the table. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss this inspiring episode about leadership, innovation, and the future of Parks and Rec. Let's dive in.
All right, this is Craig LeBlanc. We are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I have a special guest, Megan Keul, one of our rising stars in Parks and Rec. She's been a guest on the show, and we're even talking about possibly having her as a guest, as a host, perhaps the YPN, because she's kind of come up through YPN. But maybe tell us, maybe we can start there. Tell us more about YPN. If you're pitching YPN to America, to young professionals, what's the benefit of joining YPN?
I think, there's so much connectivity that happens within YPN in particular. There's not so many spots that you can necessarily just find friends from all over the country and then be able to phone them. And so being able to connect not only from an educational standpoint in particular, because sessions are held from those learning experiences, but also just being able to have like, hey, what are you doing? Or, oh, I have this problem, how can I solve it? And just have that connectivity with like a bunch of different people from different municipalities and different perspectives. It's very hard to find, and something that's a little bit outside of your scope from maybe your state or the way that your cities operate, and just give that perspective is really beneficial in particular.
Yeah. And we've always heard that you are who you hang around. And so if you're trying to achieve something, you should maybe hang around people who have already gotten there or who are further along in the journey. And Young Professionals Network is where you can do that. You can meet other like-minded young professionals. Tell us a little bit more about how being connected has helped you to get to where you are today.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll talk about my time with the Mecklenburg County, which is in North Carolina. There were so many people that challenged me and pushed me to even just go speak or get involved. And if I wouldn't have had that footprint laid for me, it really wouldn't have been able to do some of the things that I've been able to do. And so that push and being able to have that mentorship that you see kind of across the YPN network, across NRPA in particular, and then within your own organizations, it's really something that is very beneficial for, opening your eyes to things that you may have not been fulfilled in with your position and really yourself when you're thinking about it.
Yeah. And so when we talk about mentors, what are some of the things that maybe something that stands out that a mentor has helped you at?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times when you're young, you really don't understand perspectives. So whether that's political perspectives or why we're doing something the way that we are, we're always seeking that why, right? Like, why are we doing this? Why have we always done it this way? And so kind of having that mentorship to really understand the benefits or the way we might do this, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense on paper, there's probably a way and a reason for how it ended up that way. And so getting that kind of institutional knowledge is really important for me from that mentorship standpoint.
Yeah. I always say hindsight's 20/20. And so hopefully you can operate on someone else's hindsight and you're not stepping on the landmines yourself. You're learning from their mistakes. And that's always one of the biggest advantages of having a mentor in your life. And what's another way that you can get a mentor through anything NRPA or state association? Have you maybe like in networking or YPN, or what are the other ways that you can get a mentor?
Sure. The Academy, the American Academy for Park and Recreation Professionals, hosts a mentorship program. So that is one of the avenues that you can go. You can either be a mentee or a mentor, depending on where you're at in your career. But then also, you know, depending on your organization or your state affiliation, your state associations, a lot of which have the mentorship programs, like Virginia, the state of Virginia has a really great mentorship program. But then if it's not just necessarily designated, like North Carolina Parks and Rec Association, I'm on the board, we don't have a necessary like actual mentorship program, but getting involved through advisory groups and being on focus groups, you find partners within that might be outside of that scope of your organization, and find those friends to really build you up. Because a lot of the times I've been blessed with people that may have not been in our organization to really teach me and help me grow. And give that perspective a little bit. So just find your friends and really start finding ways to be connected. That branch and creating those olive branches is really important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your whole 30 under 30 journey. How did that happen? And tell us about what it's been like so far since you've gotten that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the opportunity to be a 30 under 30 professional, which means that you're under the age of 30, and there's only 30 people selected within the country to kind of have someone talk to you and apply for the award, and really talk about some of the things that you're doing and acknowledge these young professionals coming into the industry and trying to make a really big difference. And so I was blessed to receive that award, and one of the few. It's really fun to see that connectivity take place. We're talking about those connections, right? But then now you almost have like your own little class, and so that's what makes it really fun. Is like there's a special pod of us. We're all hardworking individuals. And so with those similarities, it's really fun to kind of see them at conference, you know, see them here, be out in the state associations and travel and be able to connect with them at Young Professionals Network. You know, there's different avenues. And so seeing more faces and making more friends is very important. And so that's one of the ways that I've benefited from that 30 under 30 program, and been really blessed to have received that award.
Now, what were some of the reasons that you received that award? Was there some project you were working on that they highlighted that kind of made you stand out?
Yeah, NRPA looks for a lot of different, you know, reasons why you're a great professional, and that looks a lot different in a lot of municipalities, right? So the way that I encourage people when they're looking to apply or have someone maybe that they're applying for to receive that award is really think about what makes you unique. I think a lot of the times we feel like maybe the programs we're hosting are just, oh, it's just summer camp, or oh, it's just, but searching within that and really looking at the benefits that you're providing is actually the uniqueness of what is being fulfilled with what you're creating, because they're all ultimately benefiting the communities. And so really doing that deep dive, right? No one wants to talk about themselves or really like think about those things, but it's really important when you're looking at developing your career, kind of strategic planning for yourself long term, and then really just taking pride in what you do a little bit.
Yeah. Now you received another award, which seems like a little even more prestigious as far as there's fewer people that can get the award that you have, and that kind of brings you here today to the convention, correct?
Yeah, so I am a fellow this year with the National Recreation and Park Association. So there are 4 of us that received that award in the entire country. So very, very grateful to receive the award, just kind of acknowledging some of the work that I've done within the industry. And so North Carolina proudly has 2 of those. And
oh,
so
look at that.
I got to get a little shout out. But very, very blessed to do that and learn about some of the happenings within the fellowship and just how NRPA operates. Another plug for a mentorship opportunity. I'm assigned a mentor. And so once again, making another connection here at conference and really learning from someone else.
Who's your mentor?
Angel Ferreira. So she's wonderful. She's a previous 30 under 30 recipient and a fellow as well. So yeah, blessed to kind of have a different perspective there.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have been in media and marketing. Let's maybe give a quick 101 or maybe just give a rundown of how you got into marketing, and then we can talk about maybe.
Sure. I stumbled my way into Park and Rec, taking a part-time job with the city of Raleigh, and never left it. It hasn't scared me yet, right? And so for me, it's just about taking those opportunities that feel good, and really feel that homey perspective of where can I excel and make the most out of my position. And so over the course of my career, that's kind of how it's happened. I don't necessarily, stay in the media lane or stay in the park and rec lane. I love that it's all blended because I feel like there's so many connections happening, but park and recreation is ultimately one of my favorite divisions, if you will, within the government sector, because as we heard in the opening session this morning here at conference, we tap into a lot of different aspects and a lot of proactive and reactive solution making and being there for a lot of communities, as we all know. So for me, it's really just about being able to intertwine those. But ultimately, when you're looking at media, making sure you're controlling your narrative, who you are, what you are, and being really strong in that voice is very important, because we all have naysayers, and that's okay. It's good to hear those different perspectives, but making sure that you have your feet on the ground and really those positioning in place to make sure you're the most successful for the community is very important.
Now, how did you get into media? Were you, as a young child, was that just something that interested you, or did you kind of discover this later in life?
Yeah, I was the weather girl in kindergarten, right?
No
and
way.
I said, don't let me give this up. This is my session every time. This is my what do you call it? Your little job or task in kindergarten. And I wanted to do weather so bad, but then I realized what physics was, and I said, I'm out.
Right.
And so media was obviously within that same threshold, and I still got to do a little bit of weather in that. Did a couple internships in Charlotte and realized that that wasn't really the path that I wanted to go as much anymore, being a one-man band. And I didn't love that. I just left my connections. And so now within the government sector, you have the opportunity to really make connections and come back to those communities. Whereas in news, I just kind of came in and I left. And so there's a fundamental building that takes place that I really love about park and recreation in particular, but the government sector as well, on where you can really thrive on just making those connectivity pieces happen and really plug into those partnerships.
Yeah. Now, it seems like as an industry, Parks and Rec, and I know some are better at it than others, but it seems like Parks and Rec does have trouble getting the word out, and especially in the new way that we get the word out.
Right.
Maybe you can give a little advice on what's the best way to get the word out for special events or things that you have going on in your community in this modern age of connectivity and the way we create content today.
Yeah, I think, we all want to go on TikTok and try to make it work for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. But you know what? Ultimately, a lot of the states have banned it. And that's just, dancing isn't going to fix everything, right? As much as we'd love it to. And so for me, I always will advocate for that boots on the ground approach. Going into those communities, once you build that investment and really take on that, those aspects of like who you are and what you do, and it takes a lot of work, right? Because you're physically having to go out in the communities, and some of the ways that can look is maybe taking your recreation center staff, give them 2 hours to go out in those communities that they service, and just meet people, meet business owners, on the clock. Let them have at it, because ultimately what they're doing is marketing and promoting those programs in an expanded mannerism. And so that's one of the ways that I love to, go out. I don't think you can just lean on print or digital. I think those community connections are so important, and often neglected because we get so caught up in the busy of running like a rec center or running, our facilities, and we don't realize that we need to just take a breath and go back out into our communities. And that's what's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't remember, we had one of our guests on the Daily Parks and Rec show that they would set up a booth for the city at every special event, so that they were out there in the community asking them how this event's going, how they found out about it. And they would say, did you know we have all these other things that we do throughout the year? And you really can't do that without, like you said, having boots on the ground and face to face meeting your community.
Yeah, it's the point of this podcast, right? You learn all about the intricacies of park and recreation, and a lot of the community doesn't know that it goes past just hosting a program, right? We do so much in this industry. And so if you can get out and sell yourself in particular, and repetitively, right? You want to continue to have that presence, and that can look a lot of different ways. If it is going into a business one day, if it is setting up a booth at a special event, there's a lot of different ways you can do so. Yes, it's time consuming, but it can be manipulated around schedules and making that intricacies work.
All right. So I hear a lot of people in Parks and Rec say, where do you think this industry is going in 5 or 10 years? But they typically are going to be retired in 5 or 10 years, but not you.
No, I mean, I'd love to if
You-
anybody's got a solution for that. Yeah, I think, it's very interesting, right? Because we're an industry in particular that, is around the clock. We're 24/7. There's always things happening. There's always all levels of crisis happening, right? And I think it's very interesting to see where it's going to go from that work-life balance in particular, because that's a lot of things that are being advocated at a lower level. Lower level being those younger generations. And so how do we kind of work around those asks? And that's quality of life. I think we're all taking a step back and really looking at that quality of life perspective. And so I think it can be interesting the next 5 years, really how that looks and pans out. But I also think, there's a lot of things that from a climate standpoint that were mentioned in the opening session here at conference. That we are continuing to be involved in crisis communication. And so with those things taking place and those weather events taking place, our greenways are typically built in floodplains, right? And so we are that first kind of stop for those weather events to happen at a lot of the times. And so how are we preparing for that? And being continuously strategic in that mindset, I think it's going to be very important for that next 5 to 10 year build, you having that investment in that strategic mindset, because there's a lot of things that are ever changing. It feels faster now than it ever has before. And so being prepared is one of the ways that I think this industry is really going to have to continuously evolve.
Yeah. That reminds me of this little commercial that we made. I wanted to actually get your input on it. We just created this, and it's why Parks and Rec is an essential service. And I'd love to get Megan's take on that after what she just said. So we'll play this. It's a couple of minutes and we'll be right back.
When we talk about essential services, what comes to mind? Police, firefighters, healthcare. But there's another essential service, often overlooked, yet always present. Parks and recreation. Parks and Rec is health. It's the walking trail that lowers blood pressure, the recreation center where seniors fight isolation, the swim lessons that prevent tragedy before it happens. This isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Parks and Rec is safety, a playground instead of a street corner, a basketball court instead of trouble, a summer camp where every child belongs. It's not just about activity, it's about protection, prevention, and possibility. Parks and Rec is community, the festival that brings neighbors together, the cultural event that teaches respect and diversity, the open space where a city breathes. It builds bridges where division once stood. It gives people a reason to gather, to connect, to care. And Parks and Rec is economics. It strengthens property values. It drives tourism through events and trails. It saves on healthcare costs. Every dollar invested multiplies, feeding back into schools, into safety, into growth. Essential service is not just about survival, it's about thriving. And Parks and Recreation is where thriving begins. In wellness, in equity, in culture, and in joy. Parks and Rec isn't extra, it's essential. For our health, for our safety, for our communities, for our future. A message from the Parks and Recreation community.
So how do we do?
I think good. I'll tie it into conference here. President and CEO of NRPA, Christine Stratton, actually talked about this today, where we are, as a park and recreation agencies, those structures of support. And a lot of the times, the funding goes to fire, the funding goes to EMS. But with that, they're making sure that when funding those park and recreation agencies, we are those avenues for preventative methods to help ease their burdens within their department. And that's what's so important about park and recreation, and making sure that it's funded is we are those avenues and structures of support for those communities, and we continue to do so as innovatively as we can.
Fantastic. Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate you and all that you're doing and leading the charge for all the young leaders. These are the hands that Parks and Rec are going to be in the next decades to come. And I know we're in good hands. And hopefully we can create a show together and bring you on the YPN show. But I'm glad to see you kind of rising, our future rising star here. So
Yeah.
appreciate
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Have a good convention.
Yes. Thanks,
Yeah.
Craig.
Take care.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion Parks and Rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move Parks and Rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.